evaporate yesterday.
Good afternoon, everyone. WLKY meteorologist Chris Johnson here. We are breaking into coverage. We're going to keep golf up, but we're going to do the double box here so we continue to track out these strong thunderstorms. We had a tornado warning issued. This is for Jefferson County, and this goes until 4:30 p.m. We have been watching this storm closely over the last 30 to 45 minutes, and it's been producing some very high winds, damaging winds up to 60 to 70 miles per hour. But we've also noticed a little bit of a signature that's been showing up on radar as well. And you can see what happens here along this line when these storms continue to strengthen. They start bowing out. You can get these signatures showing up on the edge, and you can get a little bit of rotation there. That's exactly what we're starting to see now as this storm continues to track off towards the east. And it will do so over the next 30 to 45 minutes working across the Louisville metro area. You can see that signature there, that tornado warning that continues. It's going to push eastward across the metro area, goes until 4:30 p.m. So a good idea to go ahead and start prepping now and perhaps get into your safe place, because not only do we have the winds with this severe thunderstorm, but now we got some rotation that's starting to show up, and that is a big time concern as this storm pushes off towards the east. So let's look at some of the communities that it's going to be tracking across over the next 15 to 30 minutes. Notice folks there in Lanesville. Right now, the strongest part of that storm working across your area. Here in Louisville, we're expecting that to arrive on our doorstep at about 4:40 p.m. and it will continue to work eastward through these areas. Notice that long list of communities just to the left there, and it's going to continue to get into Linview, folks there in Brownsboro Village, getting into Poplar Hills at 4:48 p.m. and we'll continue to see that work all the way down at some of our other communities. Trying to get a good look here right now in Seneca Gardens at 4:48. And that continues as this pushes eastward. So we're actually extending this track out further, so a little bit further east of this warning to give folks a heads up for when this storm begins to move through. So working through the Louisville metro area in the next 15 minutes or so. So we switch over to wind velocity. Always good to look at this to get that spin within the atmosphere. And when you can see some of the greens matching up with some of the reds there, we're going to get some of that rotation. And that's what we're seeing right here. And it, again, is pushing off towards the east. So folks there, Breckenridge, we're getting into some of the areas. King's Store, a lot of those locations, we're seeing some of that rotation show up now as this storm continues to push off towards the east. Suzanne, do we know how fast this storm is moving off towards the east?
About 40 miles per hour, and so I'm trying to get a little bit tighter to get some of the query data. But so again, Lanesville, between Lanesville and New Middletown, that's what we're looking at the potential. As we put the rainfall activity on, I think it's a little bit easier to see. We're seeing that little notch right there, Chris.
Yep. And that is our concern. So just north of New Middletown, we're seeing that notch, that rotation within this storm as it pushes towards the east. And it's doing so at a pretty good clip. And this is why we have to be on guard now and go ahead and get into your safe place for some of the areas ahead of that, including folks there in Buchanan, Bridgeport, Greenwood, Seven Springs, Elizabeth. Go ahead and get into your safe place now, because not only does this storm have some rotation with it, but it's the high wind gust as well. This storm has been putting down damaging winds via radar up to 70 miles per hour. So this storm is nothing to play around with as it continues to barrel eastward over the next little bit. So look at some of the communities here that's going to line up and work eastward across. We're going to see that move into Buchanan. Just said that at about 4:35 p.m. Shively, 4:42. Here in the Louisville metro at 4:48. So that's here in the next 25 minutes or so. 4:50 p.m. for folks there in Clarksville, the International Airport at about 4:50 as well. And we'll see 4:52 for over in Linview. So folks in these areas, again, good idea to get inside. If you know someone that might be outside perhaps, activities, something like that across the area, especially here in the metro, give them a call, give them a ring, say, hey, listen, we got a very severe thunderstorm that's moving eastward across the area, and you need to get inside because the winds are going to crank up, the skies are going to turn very dark, and now we have some rotation with that signature beginning to show up just to our west.
Yeah, and you know what, we're going to be continuing to monitor this, Chris, as this continues to move through. I do want to point out that we have that tornado warning right now. We don't have any reports at this point of a funnel cloud that has been seen. It's a radar indicated warning that we have at this point. This storm is tracking to the east at about 40 miles per hour. I also want to point out that we have a severe thunderstorm warning for this entire line of storms. And we were saying earlier that some of the storms that were a bit farther down to the south, we're seeing winds of 50 to 60 miles per hour. right now with this particular set of storms that we're seeing, again, no damage reports from this set of storms that we're seeing moving into the metro right now. So we do have that tornado warning for Jefferson County. That does include parts of the Louisville metro. So heads up if you're in Shively and the western parts of the county at this point. But for the entire county, area-wide, we continue to have that severe thunderstorm warning. And that's what we're going to be watching in addition to the tornado threat. At this point, radar indicated, but obviously something that we're going to be monitoring very closely. No reports of any funnel clouds right now, but you can see this is a very healthy line of storms passing through. Let's send over to Chris.
Yeah, and like Suzanne's been talking about, this is a radar indicated tornado. We have some of that rotation within this line, that notch that was showing up along the line. That's a signature we look for along these lines when these thunderstorms really start to strengthen up, and it's doing that as it pushes eastward. But like she was talking about, outside of this tornado warning, we're seeing those high wind gusts along the leading edge, and you can see there where that notch is, a little bit of rotation there, and now it looks like it's beginning to work right across the river. So folks there in Bridgeport, looks like that area rotation right now moving just east over your area. Folks there in Buchanan, same can be said. Riverside Gardens, be a good idea to go ahead and get into that safe place right now. And like I said, for folks, if you know anybody that may be outside some activities, it's been a nice day up until this point, give them a ring, let them know, hey, we got a really strong thunderstorm, severe thunderstorms moving into the area, and there's going to be some potential damaging winds, a little bit of rotation within these thunderstorms as well. We zoom things out. Notice the line here. Very, very strong, stout thunderstorm we've been watching just to our west. And like I said, producing wind gusts up to 60 to 70 miles per hour. So this thunderstorm, yeah.
Real quick, just to let everyone know, the tornado warning has been allowed to expire, and that would kind of jive with exactly what we were looking at. Rotation looked good for maybe a second or two for a couple of scans of the radar. Now it looks like they have backed off. That being said, I still think we probably need to monitor that line of storms moving through for the damaging wind threat. And so we probably want to go ahead and just track that storm as it's moving into the metro, because we continue to have a severe thunderstorm warning for the metro, even though that tornado warning has been allowed to expire. So this is up and down the line, a severe thunderstorm threat for not only the Louisville metro, but for much of the WLKY viewing area.
Absolutely. So that's what we'll do. Good news as far as that tornado warning, it's been allowed to expire, but still we have to be on guard with this line of storms as it continues to push off towards the east. And it's going to be working across the area here very shortly. Here's a tracker over the next little bit showing the communities that it will impact starting at 429 for folks there, and it looks like Galena, Buchanan at 432, and then we continue down the line. Folks there in the western parts of Jefferson County, Shively coming in at 438, and you can see here in the Louisville metro that would be around
box to make it look good for you. Sorry, Chris, we got that.
That's okay. Louisville International showing up at 445. Certainly difficult to read that with that box jumping around. But yeah, you can see the communities here that we're keeping a close eye on. This severe thunderstorm warning continues to push eastward, doing so at a pretty good clip, and it's going to bring some damaging wind gusts, heavy rainfall, a ton of lightning. We've had reports over the last 30 to 45 minutes of blinding rains, gusty winds, visibilities dropping down to near zero. This is the kind of storm that we'll be dealing with as it tracks eastward across the Louisville metro. So we need to be on guard for that. It'd be a good idea, of course, to go ahead and get inside, get to your safe place. We're not talking about a rotating thunderstorm here. This is not a tornado warning, a severe thunderstorm warning, but this severe thunderstorm warning is certainly packing a punch as far as those winds are concerned. And look at those blanket warnings showing up. Just north of Louisville, getting into southern Indiana, stretching towards the south along the interstate. I-65 points just to the west. Folks there in Brandenburg, you're dealing with, you had this storm, but now it's working into our area. And we had a lot of high wind reports, not high wind reports, but we were seeing that high wind on radar. And you can see more of the same showing up as it continues to push right now into the metro area. But a lot of thunderstorm warnings beginning to pop up. That's what we've seen a lot of over the last 30 to 45 minutes, Suzanne.
Yeah, and we were talking about some of the wind gusts that were reported anywhere from 50 to 60 miles per hour. We did have reports of some power outages into Grayson County so far this afternoon. Also some reports of some downed trees near DePaul, Indiana. And right now, as I mentioned, we've got that tornado warning that has been expired for Floyd County, also for Jefferson County. That being said, this is a potent line of storms that's now moving into the metro right now. So Potentially even with some damaging winds, gusting upwards anywhere from about 50 to maybe 60 miles per hour. So we don't want you to let down your guard as this is moving into a heavily populated area. Certainly, Chris, we're going to be watching the storm as it starts to move in. It is basically knocking on the door right now of Valley Station. If you're in Shively, you're about to see some of that. Now, keep in mind, we've gone to a full screen because we are right now in a commercial break. So let's go to Chris with that nice big shot of the radar.
Yeah, and as soon as golf returns, we're going to get you back to that double box, so you make sure you miss no golf there. But look at the storm here as it continues to push towards the east. And I want to keep a close eye on the leading edge of this line. You can get sometimes some of those notches that begin to show up where that thunderstorm is really cranking up in intensity and those winds are pushing out from that storm. And when you get something like this, you have to keep a close eye on some of these signatures, because that's why we had that quick tornado warning that was issued that did include Jefferson County. And as this storm continues to propagate towards the east, we have to stay on guard for that potential, at least for something to try and spin up. All right, here's a look at our latest tracker. Valley Station, this storm will be there at 4:34, so that's here in about 4 minutes. 4:36 in Shively, getting into western parts of Jefferson County. Folks there in New Albany, Clarksville, 4:36, 4:41. Here in Louisville, it's expected to arrive at 4:41, so that's here in the next 11 minutes. So again, be sure to get inside. This is a very, very strong storm producing high wind gusts. Parkway Village, 4:42, Jeffersonville, Louisville International Airport, 4:43. We continue down the line. You can see some of the areas that we're tracking out across the Louisville Metro and much of Jefferson County. Notice Jeffersontown, not there yet, but we've had some folks asking about their area there in J-Town, and this storm is going to be marching eastward. So I'd say in the next 30 to 45 minutes, it's going to begin to work across some of those areas. And here's a look at the wind velocity map. Again, keeping a real close eye along that leading edge where you can get some of those notches beginning to show up. And that's what we have to be on guard for, because some of those notches can lead to some rotation and the potential for quick spin-up tornado. And that's why we had that tornado warning issued just a moment ago. Seeing a little bit there, looks like, Suzanne, on our velocity map, just east of Buchanan, getting into Shively, Parkland, folks just south of Portland. And this is an area that perhaps seeing some high winds, and we're seeing a little bit of that rotation on the leading edge there, and that signature trying to show up, and she's dotting some of the miles per hour on there, indicating some of the winds that we're seeing, and it's very, very strong winds along the leading edge. So folks there, Shively, St. Denis, South Parkland, these areas right here, right along the river, that storm now beginning to knock on the door. And it's bringing some very high winds, some gusty to damaging winds along with it, up to 55, 60 miles per hour. It certainly looks like a good possibility, Suzanne, along this leading edge. Yeah, certainly, and that's what we're watching as that storm continues to track. And what I'm going to try to do is pull up some of our live cameras that we have, Chris, and talk a little bit more about what we're seeing elsewhere across the region. Keep in mind, we have up and down that line of storms. Unfortunately, we've got severe thunderstorm warnings. We may not be done with the severe weather yet either, because we are still anticipating the potential of more storms developing a little bit farther back out to the west. We'll have to see if our atmosphere has worked over enough. Right now, you can see behind me, we've got that severe thunderstorm watch for the entire WLKY viewing area. Let's send it back over to Chris as I'm trying to pull up some of these cameras right now and take a look at what's happening, maybe from some of our tower cam perspectives this afternoon, Chris. And we should be able to get a good view, Suzanne, on some of that if we can get those tower cams up. You're working on that, so thank you. And like I said, it's knocking right on the door here across western parts of Jefferson County. So if you step outside, you look towards your west and your northwest, likely seeing those darkening skies. And that's that storm that's starting to knock on the door as it continues to track eastward. Severe thunderstorm warnings, they're out for the entire metro area, and it looks like much of Jefferson County. That also includes some of our counties across the border there in southern Indiana, and also parts of Oldham County. And those likely continue for the next several minutes. More the same along I-65 and heading southward. Yeah, look at this shot right here from our KFC Yum Center camera. My goodness, look at those darkening skies. back to the north and west there, and you're going to get in on those darkening skies right here in the Louisville Metro, along with those winds and torrential rainfall, a lot of lightning as well. This storm is no joke, Suzanne, and as it continues to push into the area.
I'm trying to switch over some of our cameras right now and doing it live, Chris, so pardon me for getting some of those black shots right there, but we're checking out a few more pictures right here from, that's from our KFC Yum Center camera that we have here.
Look at that.
Showing a pretty decent shot of that darkening sky. So this is on top of the Yum Center. It's pointed back towards southern Indiana as this storm continues to move across areas of southern Indiana. Near Clarksville, you're about to see some of that heavy rainfall. It's moving through the knobs right now as well. So we're going to continue to monitor this pretty healthy storm as it continues to move through the WLKY viewing area. And again, we have a severe thunderstorm warning that's about to hit a very populated area. And we were picking up, unfortunately, some really powerful wind gusts out there, Chris, upwards of 50, 60 miles per hour on radar at this point, pretty close to the radar. So that's hopefully a fairly accurate reading for us.
Yeah, and I would not be surprised, at least the history of this severe thunderstorm and the winds that it was producing just to our west. Remember, across parts of Meade County, southern parts of Indiana, and Crawford and Perry County, this storm is really cranking up in intensity, and it's been able to maintain that strength while pushing eastward, and now it's knocking on the door here in Jefferson County. And you can see as you look across the river there just to our northwest, skies are very, very dark, likely seeing the leading edge of this storm rolling in, and then behind it, you're going to get on that very heavy rainfall and those high winds that could be gusting up to 60+ miles per hour in some spots. Notice again, folks there in South Parkland, Shively, Hunter's Trace, Greenwood, it's knocking on the door right now. It's in your area along with that heavy rainfall. Keep an eye on this. Again, within this thunderstorm, you get along that leading edge, sometimes you can get those signatures and it can produce a little bit of rotation, and that looks like we're seeing a little bit of just that, Suzanne.
Yeah, that's right. That's right near Kenwood, Chris, that we're seeing that. Also, it looks like just right along the Gene Snyder, we're seeing some of that rotation as well. Heading right now in the next couple of minutes near Audubon Park. This is a live look from our Yum Center camera with that darkening sky behind it. Now, as we take a look at a few other of our cameras at this point, this is a look from Churchill Downs. You can see again that darkening sky at this point. So we're watching these storms approaching areas like Churchill Downs right now, starting to hammer parts of Shively, moving right through Valley Station at this point. So we want to get another look at that radar, Chris, as that powerful storm continues to move in closer to our area and certainly starting to move through areas heavily populated, about to cross over right near the Gene Snyder, as well as moving a little bit closer over to 264. So heads up South Parkland, heads up Shively. If you're in Auburndale, also be on alert for that very potent storm moving through your area.
Yeah, and like I was talking about, it's been, for the most part, a pretty nice day here across the area. So a lot of folks likely outside trying to get some things done. If you have some friends, family, do us a favor. Go ahead and give them a call. Let them know we have this storm that's marching eastward closer to the area, especially here across Jefferson County, maybe the eastern parts of Jefferson County where, you know, the clouds are darkening yet, but the sky is certainly on the darker side along that leading edge. Here's our latest tracker as the storms begin to push off towards the east. Shively right now, 440 here in Louisville. Looks like it'll be here in the next 8 minutes, and then we continue down the line. Parkway Village, the International Airport, 447. Audubon Park at 448, and we continue all the way down into Linview, 449, more of the same, and then Watterson Park, Okolona, and we're getting into Rolling Fields. We're talking 451, 452. So we're talking in the next 10 to 15 minutes, a lot of these areas going to be catching the brunt of this severe thunderstorm as it pushes eastward at about 30 to 40 miles per hour. Right along that leading edge, we're keeping a close eye on it. That's what sparked that tornado warning we had just a few minutes ago, but they allowed to expire, so good news there. But along that leading edge, you can still get a little bit of rotation with some signatures that try to show up a little hook on the leading edge of that. And that's what we're seeing. Looks like just west of Audubon Park now. That's south of Germantown, right along 264. Seeing a little bit of rotation there. And you can get some of these hooks that start coming out, and that's what we have to keep a close eye on along that leading edge. So this storm continues to push eastward. Folks there in New Albany, South Parkland, Shively, you're getting hit with a very heavy rainfall, likely seeing those high wind gusts as well, and that's stretching south and westward through Bridgeport, Salina, Valley Station, and continue southward into West Point. All of these areas, we got the heavy rain, the dark skies, and the high winds. And reports before, we're talking about winds with some of these storms and conditions being blinding rain. And those high winds and heavy rain together certainly reducing visibilities. Likely what we're going to see here as this storm continues eastward into the metro area. Very highly populated area, and that's something we have to be on guard for over the next 30 minutes or so as the storm pushes eastward. Suzanne?
Yeah, and I actually, if we could, if we were able to, I'd love to pop up Matt, links to maybe behind you so we can get that nice and full. And you can see that storm. It looks like a monster coming over, unfortunately, the city. So this is a look from our camera that's in Jeffersonville. If we could switch over to our Lynx One product and put that up behind Chris so he can take a look at that.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see that. So again, Chris, this is from Jeffersonville, taking a look southward over the Clark Memorial Bridge over to downtown, and you can see that is a monster storm moving through a little bit of perhaps of a shelf cloud that we're seeing right there with the leading edge of that storm.
That other camera you also had
Yes.
up,
Sure.
it's the screen below me. It looks like it's a shot over the interstate.
Okay, so that's one of our Trimark cameras, our live Trimark cameras. I'm going to try to get that for you.
The reason I'm saying is because we're seeing the leading edge of this storm right now working into the metro, and I tell you that camera is rocking and rolling right now, Suzanne. It's shaking, the winds are cranking up, and the rain is really starting to pick up. My goodness, this, if you can get that pulled up, you can see what this storm is doing.
I'm going to pull that up from our Lynx 3 box, so bear with me 1 second.
Yeah, storm, wow.
So let me go ahead and switch it. Let's switch back over to Lynx 2 for Chris back behind him so we can track those storms moving through. And I'm going to work Lynx 2 for him, actually. There we go. There you go. So
the storm's now moving into the Louisville metro, and as you could see on our tower cam, looking across the river back towards Louisville, those darkening skies, the leading edge of that storm, it's here. And it's beginning to really bring the winds, the heavy rains. I'm looking at that camera right now just below my other side screen.
Yeah.
It is rocking and rolling. It's moving backwards and forth. I can see the trees blowing around. Very heavy rainfall, and it's reducing the visibility. Absolutely.
Let's pull up Lynx 3 then, Chris, if that's the camera that I think that you're looking for. Lynx 3, that would be what that's on. So we have obviously a number of sources. This is one of our live cameras that we have. Is this what you were talking about?
It is not. It's the one that looks like it's over the interstate.
Okay,
the
so
bottom
that
one there.
actually is our tower cam shot right there. So let's pull up our tower cam.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. So that was one of our live
There you go. Look
cameras.
at this. Yeah.
And there we go with our tower cam. There you go.
You can see the movement. The trees continue.
And so that's actually looking at the junction. That's looking from our station here on Melwood, taking a look back at the junction. You can sort of see some of our bridges right now. You can usually see the city skyline. You're actually not able to see the city skyline from this perspective right here. And look at that camera right now. Visibility down to very little so far this afternoon as that storm, we're watching that storm moving in to the WLKY viewing area right now, certainly heading into the metro in short order.
Yeah, and like I said, we had that shot of the storm looking across the river, and it was knocking on the door. Well, now it is here. And look at the visibilities. The rain continues to fall at a very heavy clip along with those gusty winds along the leading edge of that storm. And notice now it's hard to see the vehicles traveling along there. We can no longer see the bridge. We can no longer see parts of the city, and the heavy rain continues to move in across the metro. This is certainly going to slow a lot of folks up that are driving in this, and certainly bringing those high winds as well. Just a great shot there showing that storm as it continues to move across the city. Anyway, we could switch back over to radar when we get a chance, Suzanne.
Yeah, let's go ahead and switch that back.
There we go. Great, yeah, so we zoom things out. You can see from southern parts of Indiana through the Louisville metro, downtown right now, and southward. Folks there in Newburgh, heads up, it's going to be knocking on the door for you. We're going to put a tracker on that for some of the areas that will be seeing the heavy rain and some of those gusty winds over the next 15 to 20 minutes or so. So right now, Audubon Park, Jeffersonville, Louisville International, storm's on us. And we've got that heavy rain really following, the winds cranking up. Lynnview, 445, Poplar Hills 447, same can be said, Watterson Park, and you can see the communities on down the line there. And we get into the next, say about 5-6 minutes, 449, Mockingbird Valley, Rolling Fields, Wellington, and then on down to Okaluna. So in the next 5 to 6 minutes, this storm will be tracking deeper into the Jefferson County part of the area, and it's going to bring that heavy rain, those gusty winds, and of course a lot of lightning as well, but still continuing to keep a close eye on the leading edge here. From Clifton's down to Audubon Park, Camp Taylor, Beachmont, folks there in Kenwood, looks like Arbandale, Parkwood picking up on that heavy rainfall as we speak. Valley Station, Bethany, folks there picking up on heavy rain, more the same as it continues to push eastward. Fairdale, Hollyville, heads up. It's all tracking eastward into your direction. And that storm is really cranking up. Still seeing now, looking at that camera we had, our tower cam, and the visibilities continue to drop off. The winds blowing those trees around. Heavy rainfall continues. And you talk about some blinding rains like the reports that we had earlier, Suzanne, along with a lot of lightning as well.
That's right. And so far, we're continuing to watch that. Certainly, let's just keep that radar on if we could, Chris, with you behind it, if you don't mind, instead of going to a full screen. There we go. Because we're continuing to watch this moving through the heart of the metro right now, moving through right along 65. This is heading into downtown Louisville. At this instant, it's a very electric storm at this point, and we're continuing to see that just hammer parts of Germantown, Audubon Park. It's right on top of you in Shively, guys. In Minor Lane Heights, it's about to come your way. Holly Villa in the next couple of minutes. If you're in our eastern suburbs, guys, it's time to certainly head to your place of safety. Again, this is a severe thunderstorm warning, and it is for a highly populated area with certainly some very strong winds associated with it. I'm going to take off that lightning, Chris, and we can show you certainly, I think, on the leading edge of this, as you were mentioning, that's where we're going to be watching for perhaps the strongest of wind gusts to really hammer, let's say, parts of Indian Hills. Guys, we're getting reports. This is radar indicated, but relatively close to the radar site. Let's say 60 miles per hour. Heads up, Indian Hills for you. This is heading right into the St. Matthews area. Broadfield's right along 71 as you're traveling up there. We're also looking at some fairly strong winds. You can see right on top of Wellington at this point, right along Bardstown Road, Druid Hills, heading right into St. Matthews in the next couple of minutes. And it's bearing down on Indian Hills at this point with those strong winds. Heads up Northfield as well, right, Chris?
Yeah, right along that leading edge, and we continue to work towards the south. So folks there in Wellington, getting into Watterson Park, Newburgh, look at Okolona. You're seeing some of the bright reds show up, indicating some of those higher wind gusts along that leading edge of this severe thunderstorm. Yeah, 54 miles per hour. Radar indicated winds there. That is some stout winds, folks, along that storm that continues to push eastward across Jefferson County. So folks, in and around some of these areas like Highview, go ahead and get inside. This storm is marching eastward, and you're starting to see those darkening skies. You're going to hear the lightning, the heavy rainfall, and then those gusty winds will really begin to crank up here in the next little bit. Also, more of the same just to our north. So folks there in Fern Creek, J-Town, it's not there yet, but it will be heading your direction over the next 10 to 15, maybe 20 minutes. And again, you're probably looking off to your west, and you're seeing those darkening skies taking over. Those winds are going to start picking up. And when those winds start cranking up, that heavy rain will soon follow, and it's going to be blinding rain. And again, I'm looking at our tower cam, and I can't see anything.
Hey, Chris,
right now,
we do want to let you know we did have at the International Airport a 56 knot wind, about 65 mile per hour wind out there. That's official data, obviously, at the International Airport. So certainly this now confirms what we were talking about all afternoon in tracking the storms. So right now, this is right along 71 near Langdon Place, guys. 60 mile per hour winds picking up on the radar right now near Harrods Creek. You got a 50 mile per hour wind on the radar. So I think it's safe to say that most likely some of these winds are confirming at this point after getting some of that ground truth from out at the airport, right?
Yeah, exactly right. You've hit the nail on the head there. We're seeing these winds, radar indicated, but when we can get some reports on the surface, on the ground, of some of the winds like we're seeing on radar, that's a good indication that, you know, what we're seeing and what we're showing you guys, it's lining up with what actually is happening out there. And again, our tower cam showing that heavy rain. I'm looking just to the bottom of our screen here, and you can't see anything. So it's blinding rain like some of the reports we've had, along with those wind gusts. I mean, look at this, 49 miles per hour, 60 miles per hour, 44 miles per hour. For folks there in St. Matthews, 64 miles per hour. The winds are really cranking up along the leading edge of this. So let's talk about some of the communities ahead of this. So Hurstbourne Acres, J-Town, heads up. You're looking at winds ranging between 50 upwards to about 60 miles per hour. And that's, again, pushing towards the east. More of the same to our north. Wind gusts really high up there. So folks in Linden, Moreland, Rolling Hills, this storm pushing eastward into your area, and it's going to bring those high wind gusts along with heavy rainfall. And again, main threats with this severe thunderstorm continue to be those high winds and torrential rainfall, which could lead to, of course, to some localized flooding issues just because we've been so saturated over the last several days. That's also a concern because the rain is just really falling at a good clip. All right, here's a new tracker pushing eastward, and you can see a lot of the area's communities now. It's arrived, stretching from Bellwood all the way down to Glenview, Seneca Gardens, Watterson Park. It's here. You can hear it starting to hit top of our roof pretty hard as well. But also, here in about 2-3 minutes, 451 Glenview Manor, Wellington, Windy Hills, Oklahoma, St. Matthews, all heading your direction. So in the next couple of minutes, you're about to pick up on the heavy rain and that leading edge was really bringing some of those high wind gusts. And along that leading edge, Suzanne, you're seeing some of those little dots, like folks are probably seeing on the screen, but they're really bright little dots. That's indicating those really high wind gusts that we're seeing. 60 miles per hour right there.
And that's heading over into our eastern suburbs. So heads up, our next, as this line holds together, Chris, our next concern, of course, would then be Oldham County. But let's go ahead and kind of go down the line a little bit and show you where these storms are headed. So this is over near Hurstbourne, right near Taylorsville Road, guys. Bardstown, Fern Creek, guys. Heads up, Fern Creek, right near Outer Loop. We're also going to be on the lookout for some of those stronger wind gusts. And as we just reported, we did have official data of about a 65-mile-per-hour wind gust at the airport, so indicative of some ground truth here. This is not radar indicated necessarily what we're seeing right now with these winds that are on top of Highview at, let's say, 58 miles per hour, 50 miles per hour, heading right near Stony Brook at about 51 miles per hour. Those wind gusts right there. Wind gusts heading over into Forest Hills in the next couple of minutes. So, hey, if you're on Watterson Trail, if you're in J-Town, guys, heads up in J-Town, Hopewell, over into Fisherville, Lake Forest. You need to be on alert. You need to be in your place of safety. If you're in Middletown, this storm is coming for you in the next couple of moments. And if you're in, let's say, Prospect, Green Spring, Utica, Barber Mead, Rolling Hills, over into Worthington Hills, you're going to be next as this storm continues to hold on to its strength as that jaggedy line of storms continues to move through the metro, hitting our eastern suburbs. And this storm was packing a punch, of course, with definitely some very powerful winds, but also torrential downpours. And Chris, I know you probably mentioned this before, but because we are so saturated, when you have wind gusts like this, you got a full canopy of trees. You are talking about pulling down some of those shallow rooted trees. And that's what we're going to be watching out for, the potential of some down trees as well.
You beat me to it. I was thinking here, we've been so well saturated. The winds are really high, and then we're throwing in more rainfall. And you're likely going to run into, would not be surprised, we had some down trees, some damage showing up with some fallen trees just because of the ground. It's just so wet. And you get some winds at 50, 60 miles per hour. Certainly a lot easier to take down some of those larger trees since that ground is so saturated. All right, here's an updated tracker for you as we head into the next 3 to 5 minutes. Folks there in Crossgate, getting into Norborn Estates, Wellington, West, Windy Hills, and that's tracking eastward. And this is all going to arrive at 4:54 p.m. So I'll move out of the way. You can see we take it eastward. This is getting into now along I-64, far western parts of Shelby County as well. And this storm still continues to hold its act together. Severe thunderstorm warning continues for this storm, and as it should, because along the leading edge, we're talking those wind gusts anywhere between 50 to 60 plus miles per hour, along with that torrential rainfall likely leading and slowing a lot of folks up that's driving, no doubt about that. But also, as we were talking about, so well saturated, could be leading to or lead to some local high water issues in some spots across the metro. So something we have to be really, really on guard for over the next bit. Look at that. 71 mile per hour wind gust showing up there, 56 mile per hour, 58. Another 50 mile per hour wind gust. That's just north of Worthington there. So 58 miles per hour and then a 71. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and that's right on that Oldham County, Jefferson County line in the eastern portions of Jefferson County, an area that actually a couple of months ago was hit by a tornado. So we don't need any damaging wind gusts on top of that, but we are looking at some very strong winds as this storm continues to race into Oldham County right now. So Oldham County next to be under the gun, but certainly into Rolling Hills, you are seeing some very healthy storms right now with a lot of strength with some of these winds. So that's going to be right along LaGrange Road, guys. And this is right along 71, pretty close to Westport Road. So for our friends in the eastern sections of Jefferson County, heads up. Listen, you need to be on guard right here. This is just right near Rolling Hills. We don't want you to let down your guard. Heading into Anchorage, O'Bannon, right along Old Henry Road. We're going to be watching for some stronger winds right there. Definitely going to be powerful. 50-mile-per-hour wind, perhaps right on top of LaGrange Road where it intersects with Hurstbourne right there, Chris. So we'll be on the lookout for that. So this is a very populated area, so it'll be interesting to see if we get any damage reports. As we take you a little farther down to the south, we do want to watch this guy right here. This is south of Thixton. Now, this is right about Bardstown Road, southern Jefferson County, guys. So we're going to be watching that because that's showing a little rotation right there.
A little bit of rotation, exactly right. And that's just south, and it looks like you're getting some of those greens that are mixing with a little bit of those reds. And when you have that wind velocity map up, that's telling us that there's some rotation out there along the leading edge. So we have to keep a real close eye on that because that's what prompted that tornado warning that we had here across the metro about 20-25 minutes ago. So still watching this very closely over the next little bit. Looks like that's, like you said, just south and southwest of Thixton there. So right along, looks like 150, just south of Fairmont.
Yeah, that's in Bardstown Road, guys, so keep that in mind. Bardstown Road, southern Jefferson County. That's where you're going to be on alert for maybe a little rotation. But sometimes you just get a little rotation when we're just talking about a powerful storm. Doesn't have to be a tornado, just indicative of a really strengthening, powerful batch of storms. And that's exactly what we have right now, with a history of reported wind gusts, the upwards of 65 miles per hour, with some of these storms as they continue to race through areas of Jefferson County. So we are watching the storm right on top of Prospect, right along 71. About to push into Linden in the next couple of minutes, certainly starting to scoot into sections of Jeffersontown. It is on top of you in Newburgh, and we were watching for some of that rotation down near Thixton, right along Bardstown Road. I did have some reports of multiple trees down in Corden, something to keep in mind. And exactly what you were talking about, the shallow rooted trees with the full canopy on them. We have a ton of saturated ground out there. So these winds, they are powerful in and of themselves, but potentially even more devastating simply because we have been so saturated.
Right, and again, this is a storm we've been watching since we go all the way back to Santa Claus, Indiana. This is the same thunderstorm that started really ramping up in intensity and started producing some impressive wind fields up to 55, 60 plus miles per hour. It worked through parts of Perry County in southern Indiana, then it headed eastward across parts of getting into Crawford County and then working into Harrison County, northern parts of Meade County, and then it began to arrive here across the metro. And it's easy to see why this thunderstorm has been a severe thunderstorm warning storm over the last little bit. It's producing that heavy rainfall, but also the wind field has just been incredible with this storm. It's been very strong. And here's our latest tracker. And right now, Brownsboro Farm, it's hitting you, and here's some more of our communities on down the line. So folks there in Norwood, Briarwood, getting into Murray Hill, all the way down to Linden, Plantation, Creekside, we're seeing this storm arriving on the doorstep here in the next 3 to 4 minutes across those areas. Again, expect initially the skies to darken. Then you'll start seeing and feeling those winds begin to pick up. As soon as those winds start cranking up, that heavy rain is going to unleash across the area, and then you'll start getting in on the torrential rainfall that we've had here across the Louisville metro as it continues to push eastward into eastern parts of Jefferson County, southern parts of Oldham County. This is just south of LaGrange. So folks there, a lot of folks likely watching from LaGrange. That's south of your area, but notice you still have the storms just to your west that will impact your area in the next little bit. And then it's working into western parts of Shelby County as well.
And Chris, I do want to let everyone know that we have had some reports of some downed trees in the Shively area. So on First Avenue in Shively. We appreciate your sending the reports in to our social media platforms. It is really helpful for us to get an idea of what's happening out there. So thank you for sending in all of your photos. We're going to try to work to get those on for our 6:30 newscast. Obviously, the matter at hand right now is our tracking these storms as they continue to move through the WLKY viewing area, and in particular the metro right now, as this is a potent line of storms continuing to race through. So let's go ahead and maybe we'll dissect a few of these areas, picking up some of these stronger wind gusts. Chris, right along Old Henry Road, right near Lake Forest, we're picking up some of that stronger wind, and it's right in the leading edge where we are seeing the strongest of winds at this point. So again, that's right along Shelbyville Road, guys. That's just to the south of Lake Forest. So let us know what you're seeing if you can do so safely. So that's right along Shelbyville Road, just about 40-mile-per-hour wind right near Pope Lick, a little bit closer over into the Eastwood area. You need to be on guard in Eastwood because you're about to see some of this energy coming your way.
Yeah, that's an impressive reading right there on Shelbyville Road. That wind really picking up along the leading edge, and that's really been the story with the severe thunderstorm that's worked across the metro and continues to do so. That leading edge bringing some stout wind gusts and torrential rainfall, and then back up to our north. We're seeing more of the same 50-mile-per-hour gust via radar there, and that is just east of Brownsboro. And then we're seeing more of those gusty winds onto our south as well, and that was actually over in Oldham County, just north of I-71.
And we're watching, again, just right on the leading edge, and these strong wind gusts, Chris, as we take you right outside Seatonville at this point, heading into Route. It looks like a pretty healthy wind gust there, about 60 miles per hour. So that's right heading toward Route, just outside of Seatonville. A little bit closer, guys, over to southern portions of Jefferson County. So certainly we're seeing on the leading edge of that storm, and that's why we've been tracking that as it's moving through some of our eastern suburbs, because that's where we've been picking up the strongest winds. It's at ahead of that line. We are seeing some very strong winds. I want to just go ahead and quickly, Chris, if we could just do a quick little check here to show everyone the warnings now, because guys, we know it's not just the metro that's being hammered with that heavy rainfall. I want to heads up you also a little farther down to the south into areas right now of Nelson County, southern Bullitt County, for this storm right here that's pushing up to the north and to the northeast. We'll be watching for that. Also down for our friends into Greene County. You are not out of the woods yet either. We're still watching for that. And Chris, if I could just really quickly sort of give you a broad brush look here. So we're not done yet. We've got this line of storms right here, and we need to be weather aware for the rest of the night, because look at this line of storms that is barreling into sections of Kentucky, western Kentucky. Tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings. Now, the goal is that we'll hopefully be overworked enough, but I am not sure that that's going to happen, because that looks like a dynamic storm, because that's an area down across areas of Missouri, Illinois, certainly that has already seen some thunderstorms, Chris, so I'm going to be watching for that as we head into tonight.
Yeah, again, another MCS, another complex of storms that has worked across the area that's brought the heavy rainfall, some severe thunderstorms, certainly been very active, and we're seeing once again that as we head deeper into this afternoon, right along the leading edge. Again, watching just north and northwest of Goshen, looks like we're seeing those higher winds, maybe a little bit of rotation trying to pick up on the back edge there. And look at the leading edge, 58 miles per hour, 65 miles per hour, just east of Crestwood. Those winds are really ramping up along the leading edge there. Folks there in LaGrange, heads up. The heavy rain, the high wind gust, they're knocking on the door here in the next 5 to 10 minutes. More of the same just east. That looks like Ballardsville and then Chestnut Grove. Folks there in Shelbyville and Shelby County, you're included in that severe thunderstorm warning with the leading edge right here. Those wind gusts ranging between 50 upwards to 60 plus miles per hour. So those winds will be cranking as this storm continues to push off towards the east and northeast. And look at those, 58, 65, 51, 31 to our south. And we're going to zoom in on some of these areas here and continue to keep a close eye on the leading edge of this storm that's bringing those high winds. Look at that, 58 miles per hour. Again, just south and west of LaGrange. Folks there in LaGrange, you're likely starting to see those darkening skies, winds beginning to pick up a little bit, and they will continue to do so along with that torrential rainfall. More of the same back to our west and southwest as well. Folks there in Finchville, Elk Creek, Mount Washington, now you're getting in on some of the wind and heavy rain. More of the same there just to our south. Folks there in Shepherdsville, that's northern parts of Bullitt County, picking up on that heavy rain. And again, we're showing you these winds we're seeing along that leading edge, 53 miles per hour. 57 miles per hour just south of Smithville. And a lot of these we're showing you because we have some ground truth to some of the winds. We had that reading over at the Louisville airport. So we were seeing the winds via radar, and then it matched up pretty well with what we actually got a reading at the airport from. So what we're seeing along this leading edge, likely seeing out there on the ground as well, on the surface. So this storm, very strong one, producing those gusty, those high winds as it continues to push off towards the east. It looks like right now, Suzanne, that severe thunderstorm warning no longer includes the Louisville
Yeah, and guys, what they're going to
area.
be doing is they're going to continue to obviously trim back the far western portions of that warning, but you'll notice that they're continuing to extend the warning eastward. And Chris, it's really important to note we just had a damage report out of Prospect. Sometimes it takes a little while to get damage reports, but with some of the winds that we've been picking up and dissecting on the radar, no doubt we're going to see plenty of downed trees. We've had wind gusts potentially up to 70 miles per hour. Certainly we've got the ground truth of wind gusts of 64 miles per hour, and that's out at the international airport. So we'll continue to have to watch that. But we did get a report of a downed tree up in Prospect, and obviously we got that report in Shively of also some downed trees. So these storms, as they're continuing to push off, it's even maybe before it rains that you are getting that gust of wind out ahead of it that is posing a danger.
Yeah, and like we've touched on before, it's the ground so well saturated for all the previous rains we've had, along with that the full canopy, and then you get these winds like we've had, potentially 70+ miles per hour in some spots. Not surprised to hear about the fallen trees, the downed trees from those high winds, and likely we will see more of that show up as this storm begins to push eastward and clears the area, allowing folks to get back out. We're going to see some more of this damage likely show up in many, many spots. All right, here's an updated tracker right now. Folks in Brownsboro, it's on you, but Crestwood and the Eastwood, 508, that's the next 3 minutes here, and it continues down the line up to about 15 after. They're in Simpsonville, so now we're getting into parts of Shelby County. Folks there in LaGrange, just to our north, 518, that's another 13 minutes, and then we're seeing all the way down to Pendleton, Waterford at 525 for this storm as it tracks off towards the north and east. And this is a stout storm as they continue to expand that severe thunderstorm warning. Yeah. Likely going to see those darkening skies first. Then the winds start picking up. And behind those winds will be torrential rainfall, and the winds will continue to crank. And again, it's along that leading edge where we're seeing these wind gusts potentially ranging between 50 upwards to about 60, 65 miles per hour in some spots.
Yeah, and you know, Chris, I just saw some information from Pee Wee Valley, which is right about here, right basically on the Oldham County, Jefferson County line, of some downed trees there as well, some pretty healthy trees, some big trees. So unfortunately, it's going to be a mess for so many people to have to clean this up. So right now, guys, into central Oldham County, we are getting reports of 50-mile-per-hour winds, 55-mile-per-hour winds right now. Yeah, 55 miles per hour just north of Simpsonville. We're getting into western Shelby County, 66 miles per hour. And just south of Bowersville, 55 miles per hour. The wind's really beginning to crank along the leading edge once again as it moves into western Shelby County. Look at that, 70 miles per hour. This is an area we need to really be concerned with as it moves along Shelbyville Road. That's 60, and then along with I-64. So folks in and around this area, Simpsonville, just to our east, we're going to see those high wind gusts begin to really crank up. That leading edge of that storm now knocking on the door before it begins to push eastward, getting into eventually Shelbyville there. Back to our north, LaGrange. We're seeing those high wind gusts. Again, 50 miles per hour plus certainly a possibility. More of the same back to our northwest from Buckner up towards Cedar Point, getting into Skylight, Russell Corner. High winds, gusty winds, heavy rainfall. This is the name of the game with this storm as it pushes eastward across the area. And of course, you can see that severe thunderstorm warning that continues for a good chunk of the area. Now, that severe thunderstorm warning is just east of downtown Louisville, but still includes parts of the metro and a good chunk of Jefferson County and several other counties, including folks there in Oldham County, Shelby County, northwestern parts of Spencer County. To our south, folks there in northern parts of Bullitt County. So we're not done yet. This is a strong storm with high wind gusts. Potential is there, and we're getting reports now, so damaging wind gusts becoming a good possibility along the leading edge, Suzanne. Yeah, and I don't even know if we want to say possibility as much as they are almost a guarantee in some areas. The bottom line is this storm has a history of producing damaging wind gusts. We are talking about, at least on radar, indicated 70-mile-per-hour winds heading into Shelby County right now. Also, torrential downpours, blinding rain, and we're continuing to see all of that thunderstorm activity moving into now Oldham County. Shelby County certainly heads up there. A little farther down to the south into portions of Mount Washington, you are getting all that heavy rainfall. Guys, we don't want to forget farther down to the south, we got a very healthy storm moving through areas of LaRue County, about to move into sections of Marion County right now. And you'll notice even farther down to the south, no one gets out of this without getting some thunderstorm activity. We are watching this storm that's about to scoot into sections of Greene County right now. So heads up for Greene County. We need to be weather aware in most parts of the WLKY viewing area. The The exception perhaps across sections of southern Indiana, you are in the clear. But the storm that has been, for our interest, really packing the greatest punch, has had the history of ground truth of seeing damaging winds associated with it, is right now this storm that we're seeing, not only moving through some of our eastern suburbs at this point, also across areas of southern Jefferson County, and certainly starting to move now into Shelby County. Central Oldham County, if you're in LaGrange, you need to be weather aware because we are talking about some strong wind gusts that are headed your way.
Yeah, absolutely. And notice back to our south here, you're talking about the southern part of this storm. Look at Mount Washington, likely getting on some torrential rainfall. Of course, those gusty winds, a lot of lightning as well. And that severe thunderstorm warning includes those areas. And it looks like it's just north there of Shepherdsville and northern parts of Bullitt County. But we continue along the line. I-65 points to the south. Again, another strong thunderstorm working north and eastward. Folks there in Bardstown, southwestern parts of Nelson County, heads up. This is another severe thunderstorm going to move across the area, bringing those potential damaging winds, torrential rainfall. And that's going to lead to some possible issues across the area. But again, our big time concern along the leading edge of this severe thunderstorm that continues to track eastward along I-64, now getting into parts of Chestnut Grove. Look at this, we're talking 69 mile per hour wind gusts via radar, 54. This is just east of Bowersville. Folks there just east of Russell Corner, 53 miles per hour. So getting into Newcastle, Eminence, Smithfield, heads up. These winds are ranging between 50 upwards to 65, 70 miles per hour in some spots. That's certainly a good possibility, especially with some of the reports that we've had roll in over the last little bit. We zoom things back out, looking to our north, checking up here. Again, seeing some winds just north and east. It looks like of Oldham, Russell Corner there, getting into parts of Oldham County and then stretching further south and southeastward. Elk Creek picking up on those high winds. And you can see again the leading edge, likely seeing some of those higher winds show up in some of those spots. So we're talking 50, 63 miles per hour, and we continue to query some of those. And you can see, again, along that leading edge, high wind gusts, heavy rainfall, darkening skies as this strong to severe thunderstorm continues to barrel off towards the east. Suzanne?
Yeah, that's right. And we're continuing to monitor this now, really hammering parts of Shelby County into Oldham County. And now, guys, if you're in Spencer County, you need to be on guard because the leading edge with those most powerful of winds associated with this storm is now moving into your area. So watch for that. We continue to have a severe thunderstorm warning for many locations. Reports at a prospect of a large tree down. We got some reports out of Pewee Valley also of a number of large trees. Let's go ahead and show you right now. We continue to have a number of warnings that continue. This particular warning here is going to go until 5:30, guys. It's 5:12 right now. And here's the deal. The strongest part of this storm is now scooting out of Jefferson County. It's starting to now move into areas of Oldham County. It's moving into Shelby County. It's hammering parts of Bullitt County with torrential downpours. And guys, it's going to move to you over in Spencer County right now. So right now we're continuing to see the strongest parts of this storm is out ahead of the actual where you may be seeing all the bright red on the radar right here, because out ahead of it, we are getting some reports of some very powerful winds that are moving through. Not only obviously the strong winds, but there is a ton of lightning in these storms. They are very electric. Notice all the lightning up into areas you can see right here into southern Trimble County, guys, back into northern Bullitt County. And look at all the lightning farther down to the south from Hart County, not technically in the WLKY viewing area, but I want to point it out because it is headed toward Greene County this afternoon. It's been a long day.
It's been a long day, been a long week, Suzanne. Been very, very busy.
It has.
As far as the showers and thunderstorms and severe weather that we've had across the area. Again, that severe thunderstorm warning goes until 5:30 p.m. and that includes eastern parts of Jefferson County, now taking more of an aim, getting into Shelby County. Of course, folks there in Oldham County, Henry County, it's knocking on the door. And as you were saying, Suzanne, in Spencer County, Elk Creek and parts of Mount Washington picking up on that heavy rainfall and that wind. But notice along that the outflow of that storm, you can see it there on our wind velocity map, still producing some high wind gusts, hence why we continue the severe thunderstorm warning across that area. 50 miles per hour, 63 miles per hour just east of Elk Creek, and we're seeing more of the same to our north. So again, we cannot let our guard down with this severe thunderstorm because of the wind gust it's producing. We'll likely continue to see those damage reports stream in. Again, look at these just east of Bowersville, north of Chestnut Grove, 54 miles per hour, near 70 miles per hour. just west of 322 north of Chestnut Grove.
Hey,
very impressive.
Chris, we do want to let everyone know, if you are currently interested in watching golf, you are not going to miss a moment of golf. Here's the deal. Every time we're in a commercial break, Chris and I are talking over the radar in full screen. Once they pop back to golf, as soon as it comes back on, our master control operator switches it back to a double box. So we promise you're not going to miss any golf, but here's the bottom line. These are dangerous storms. They have a history of producing damage. They're hitting a highly populated area, so certainly we want everyone to stay safe. We have a responsibility, of course, for everyone to stay safe as well. So we're going to continue to track these storms because, unfortunately, we've had some reports of winds gusting the upwards of 60 miles per hour and some radar indicated reports of up to 70 miles per hour. So it's a dangerous set of storms moving through, Chris.
It is. And when you get severe thunderstorm warnings with winds cranking upwards to 65, 70 plus miles per hour, that becomes a big time threat and a danger to many areas just because those wind gusts can do a lot of damage along the leading edge of these storms. Now folks there in Shelbyville getting into the heart of Shelby County, picking up on that heavy rain, a lot of lightning as well, and those wind gusts will be there. We continue more to our north. Of course, severe thunderstorm warning continues until 5:30 for folks there in Henry County, ongoing across Oldham County, getting into Trimble County just south of Bedford, picking up on very heavy rainfall. Folks there in Campbellsburg, heads up, the torrential rain is heading your way along with some lightning and those gusty winds. Once again, this is a big threat with this severe thunderstorm as it continues to push off towards the east. And look at the wind field here. We're seeing those winds still pretty decent along the leading edge of this. Chestnut Grove, just to the southwest at 53 miles per hour, 47 miles per hour, a couple readings there as we query the wind speeds, the velocity within the atmosphere for this storm. And again, pushing through Shelbyville, and now we go back to our southwest. You can see the outflow of that storm showing up on our wind velocity map just to our south and west as well. So folks there in Taylorsville, it's not raining yet, but you're likely getting a nice little breeze, a nice cooler breeze. That's the outflow from this thunderstorm, and it's still providing for some gusty winds as the outflow moves through. There's no doubt about it. But in behind this, the rain, it begins to fall, torrential at times, and again, continues to push towards the east. As we head into the next 15 to 20 minutes, again, that severe thunderstorm warning could be expanded to include more parts of Spencer County. Right now, it's just to the west of Taylorsville. And there's a look at that.
And that's important. As this continues to make its eastward progression, they will continue to trim down the severe thunderstorm warning. Right now, the strongest part of the storm for Jefferson County is in the southern section of Jefferson County right now. But we're continuing to see strong winds moving through areas of Shelby County back into Spencer County, and certainly through Oldham County. We have seen some powerful winds with reports of damage associated with those winds. Right now on top of Thixton, you are getting the brunt of some of that thunderstorm activity. Also, heads up into Elk Creek. We were talking about out ahead. Let's say in Yoder near Little Mount, wind gust reports anywhere, let's say 50 to 60 miles per hour, radar indicated at that point. Also, as we head into Mount Washington, you are getting hammered with that heavy rainfall. Back into High Grove, down across areas farther down to the south, we're continuing to see that. And I want to just point out really quickly, Chris, because we are not done with this thunderstorm activity yet. We are still continuing to monitor the threat farther back out to the west with the potential of more thunderstorm activity that could possibly develop. It is knocking on the door of western Kentucky at this point. It's a dynamic line of thunderstorm activity, unfortunately, that is continuing to hold its strength. So although we have been worked over in our atmosphere, we'll have to continue to monitor that. But the bottom line is right now we're continuing to monitor the greatest threat of most importance at this point is that severe thunderstorm warning moving out of Jefferson County and starting to move into sections of Oldham County, Shelby County, also as we move into portions of northern Bullitt County and sections of Spencer County.
It'll be interesting to see with that activity back out to our west with that bigger complex of thunderstorms. Right now, it's sending severe thunderstorms heading towards western Kentucky. Again, Suzanne touched on it. Atmosphere getting well worked over with these strong storms working across the area right now. But again, we have to be on guard for additional activity as we get into the first part of this evening, perhaps a little bit later on tonight. Something to keep a close eye on. Now we get back to the severe thunderstorm warning. It continues to push across the area. Now just east of course, Louisville, getting into eastern parts of Jefferson County, beginning to see some of the rain lighten up just a little bit, especially for folks there over in Hurstbourne Acres, J-Town. So good news there. But also out ahead of that, we're still tracking that torrential rainfall, the gusty to damaging wind showing up still winds via radar showing up between 50 and 60 miles per hour. This thunderstorm does have a history of producing damage. We've already been talking about several damage reports, not only here across Jefferson County, but also again back to our west where this storm began to develop, and we've been tracking it for the last couple of hours. Back in Meade County, parts of Harrison County, we've had downed trees, and likely going to hear more of these downed tree reports as we head into the next couple hours, Suzanne.
It's interesting that you should point that out, Chris, because we just this moment had a report into St. Matthews, reports of some large trees down there into the St. Matthews area. And we were tracking that storm as it was moving through St. Matthews and actually clearing some of the stronger storms as they were passing through some of the stronger wind gusts through that area. So right now into sections, we do want to let you know of Shelby County, at least some radar indicated wind gusts of about 50 to 53 miles per hour. Now, what is interesting, Chris, is I'm not seeing those wind gusts of 70 miles per hour, for instance, that we saw a little bit earlier. So that's some good news for us. At least potentially some of these storms are perhaps weakening some, but we don't want to be certainly letting down our guard just quite yet, because we will still monitor the threat of a strong to severe storms for the rest of the evening. Unfortunately, this line will move through, and then potentially we're going to have to be on the lookout for an additional line of thunderstorm activity that is now starting to move into areas of western Kentucky. So this line's moving through, still packing a punch, but perhaps in some locations perhaps weakening a little bit as it tracks east.
And that's good news, certainly good news. But again, do not let your guard down, especially with some of these severe thunderstorms just east of the metro now, working into parts of Shelby County, Taylor County, of course, and then more activity back to our south across southern Kentucky. And you can still see severe thunderstorm warnings ongoing just to our east and then more to our south. And again, back to our southeast, some of our eastern and southeastern communities, there's still some untouched atmosphere out there, meaning we still have some juice. We've seen some sunshine, we've warmed up, and these storms are working into a part of the atmosphere that hasn't been worked over with these storms, which could lead to these storms gaining a little bit of strength and potentially becoming severe. And that's what we have to keep a close eye on again as we get into the first part of this evening. This line, as it continues to push towards the east, and you can see some of the counties with the flashing polygons indicating that severe thunderstorm warning that continues. Here's another one. It looks like just out of our area, but this is tracking into parts of Adair County. So is this a newer severe thunderstorm warning?
It's a newer severe thunderstorm warning, and they've actually allowed some of those that were heading into Greene County to expire. So I think probably as this continues to move and perhaps weaken in some areas, we may transition over to just broadcasting on WLKY.com and some of our social media platforms. But this storm right here is going to be heading into Columbia at 5:40, Glens Fork at about 5:42, Sparksville at about 5:29. So we'll continue to monitor that storm for our southernmost community, and this storm continuing to track off to the east, still with implications for, let's say, southern Trimble County. Back into Henry County, you're under the gun as far as severe weather threat. Back into Shelby County, moving into areas right now of Spencer County, starting to move out of Bullitt County. The southern part of that storm from the metro, it is moving more slowly across our southern communities. It was racing out ahead in our northern sections. And Chris, that would bode well for what we have seen with that racing forward, that forward speed, also indicative of the areas where we saw the stronger wind gusts.
You're absolutely right, and she nailed it right there. And we were seeing those very high wind gusts. But again, cannot put our guard down yet, because folks there in Shelbyville, the heart of Shelbyville, getting into Shelby County, folks there in eastern parts of Shelby County, heads up, you still have a severe thunderstorm warning working across the area, likely with some high wind gusts, of course, heavy rainfall and a lot of lightning. More of the same to our south across the county border there, getting into parts of Spencer County. Would be curious to see if they maybe extend that severe thunderstorm warning across parts of Shelby and Spencer County, something we'll see here in the next little bit. But notice to our north as well, Campbellsburg picking up on that heavy rainfall, gusty winds continue, but still, this did not have the look that it did have about 30 minutes ago when it was beginning to cross into the metro. So it is showing signs that it's beginning to weaken. Of course, not seeing as much lightning with it as well, which is good news, but also we have to be on guard for this storm. Still a very strong, even severe thunderstorm that will push eastward eventually out of our area. And of course, we're holding on to more of those storms to our south as well, Suzanne.
Yeah, that's right. And so I think what we're going to do is we're going to transition this, because obviously we're going to be having a newscast at 6:30. We have some of our reporters that are out live right now gathering the very latest on some of the the damage reports that we have received, because we did have damage reported out of Shively, out of St. Matthews, out of Prospect, out of Pee Wee Valley. So we're going to be getting you the very latest on that. In addition to, obviously, we're going to be watching that next line of storms that are knocking on the door of western Kentucky at this point. So we may need to be tracking those storms a little bit later. So what we're going to do is we're going to transition over to our mobile platforms in the next several minutes as those storms continue to track to the east, and we'll obviously be following them throughout the night.